Hello everyone and welcome back to That Engineering Girl. My name is Ruha, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm out here engineering my life and sharing that journey with you. So today I want to answer some of the most searched questions related to engineering, and we're going to be using good old Google for that. This is an idea I, kind of molded to fit my theme because there are videos up here on YouTube where celebrities answer the most searched question on the web. I think that's what it's called, something along the lines of that. And so I'm kind of taking that idea and molding it to engineering. So I just wanted to give credit to that idea at this point. And without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so we've switched over to my laptop. I'm screen sharing. So let's get into this. Our first prompt is what engineering. So actually, let me explain. I'm using the 5Ws excluding who because who engineering does not make sense. And then of course, how. So our first prompt is what engineering? Okay. What engineering should I do? That is a question that is highly subjective and depends on what matters to you. So you could be looking for salary. If that's the case, then currently software engineering, electrical engineering, computer engineering, anything that's in the tech field is super popular. So in terms of that would be the engineering that I recommend. If it's for passion, and then I would recommend actually either researching the different engineering, seeing what types of courses are offered in those respective engineering fields, and then getting a feel for the different type of content and what most jives with you and what you're interested in. You could do that, or to get the same outcome, what you could do is actually attend a university in an engineering degree that has a common first year, like the University of Calgary, so where I'm attending university. And that way you can also get a feel for the different engineering types and then understand what engineering best suits your interests. Now, those are the two different types of scenarios that I can think of at the top of my head, but that's how I would answer that question. Now, what engineering jobs are in demand? I did already answer this. Anything in tech, super high demand. So software, computer, electrical engineering. And then I would say actually mech, maybe, because of the whole thing going with electric cars and all of that. So I would say mechanical engineering is probably high in demand. And that's what comes off the top of my head. I don't think any other engineering fields are super high in demand right now, comparatively to the ones that I talked about. So what engineering discipline is right for me? Already talked about this. This would be a fun quiz to do. Maybe that's a video for another time. Talked about that. What engineering makes the most money? So this is once again really variable depending on the year, time, what the market looks like. So right now, like I've already mentioned, the engineering that makes the most money is probably software engineering at this moment. I know several years back, it was most likely chemical engineering that was earning the most. So it changes as the market changes, but currently it's software engineering. So what engineering jobs are in demand in Canada? I would say from the internship search that I did this past year, the most in-demand engineering jobs would be software engineering, honestly. Yep, I would say software engineering once again. What engineering the best? Highly subjective, so I'm going to skip over that one. What engineering degree is the hardest? Honestly, I would say almost all of them. All of them are equally hard in different ways. Like, for example, if I was to do a civil engineering degree, I would probably want to bawl my eyes out. However, if someone from that degree was to do my degree, like electrical engineering, they would probably feel the exact same way. So that is another very subjective question. And if we look at it from an objective standpoint, so without personal preferences, interest, I would say all of them are equally difficult. All right, so let's move on to our second prompt. Okay, so the second prompt is where engineering. Now, I'm not sure what results we're going to get for this, but let's see. So where engineering. So where engineering controls are not sufficient That is very interesting. I haven't ever heard of that idea of engineering controls. Like I know about control systems, but engineering controls and why they would not be sufficient. That is very interesting. Something I will look into later, but I do not have enough knowledge to answer that question. So where engineering was invented. I would not say it was invented. It existed and then it was given a name. So for example, at the very basic foundational level in very generic terms, engineering is simply problem solving. That's all it is, right? It's finding solutions and solving problems. So that's why I say it existed, because problem solving and critical analysis has always existed, except we actually started grouping the different types of problems that we're solving. And then we started calling them electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and so on and so forth. So I wouldn't say it was invented per se. The concept or idea or term was probably invented. That I do not know when that was invented. But as a whole, the idea of engineering, I would argue that it was not invented, but instead named. Okay, so where engineering colleges? Those are everywhere that you can possibly look. Probably not on the countryside or in non-urban areas. They're probably in hub cities, but they're pretty much everywhere. So let's move on. Where engineering process? Where did engineering come from? Same idea as where engineering was invented. It didn't come from anywhere. I think it was a practice that was being done and then it was given a formal name, in my opinion. That's what I would argue. Okay, let's move on to the third prompt. Okay, so the third prompt is when engineering. So let's look that up. When engineering colleges reopen in Karnataka. I'm not sure where that is, so I'm gonna skip over those. When engineering colleges will start. When they will start overall, that doesn't make sense to me as a question, but when they open for the academic year, it's the same as any other degree. They usually start in September-ish and end the academic year, so the winter semester in April, I believe. And then of course you have your summer and spring semesters. So that's how I would answer that question. When engineering colleges will open, same thing. Can't answer that. When is engineering day? That is a good question. I should probably know that, but I do not. When engineering admission will start. So there's early admission and then there's like regular admission, at least here in Canada. Early admission starts, early. I think applications for early admission are due in October, I believe, from what I remember. When I did this, it was years back, obviously. So I think October, around there somewhere here in Canada, that's early admission. And then they go all the way to when school actually starts. I know some people who got admission to engineering literally the day before the first day of the academic year. And applications are reviewed as they come in all year round. So let's move on to the next prompt. All right, this might be fun. So let's do why engineering. I like that. Why engineering is the best degree. Also very subjective. I'm going to play the devil's advocate. I'm going to say it's not necessarily the best degree depending on the type of person you are. There's many different angles that you can take to this. So it's the best degree depending on salary, like job salaries in the market right now is the best degree, depending on how challenged you are mathematically, physically, that kind of thing. There's so many different ways to interpret this question by why engineering is the best degree. I'm going to tailor this question a little bit and say why engineering is a good degree, because that I can answer. And it's a good degree because it challenges you critically, it pushes your limits, it makes you uncomfortable, and it really shows you what you can do. It really shows you the power of what you can accomplish, I think, in this world. It really pushes your limits. So that's how I would answer that question. So why engineering is important? Along the same lines, it's important because we solve important problems. That's my answer. Why engineering is bad? You know what? I actually have a video coming up on this about why an engineering major isn't so great. And so we'll talk about this then. So why engineering as a career? Many reasons. You can think about job salary in the market right now. You could think about how it intellectually challenges you. You could think about how you can work in many different sectors, especially if you're doing, say, software engineering. It gives you a lot of variety, diversity in that aspect. Or you're just super, super passionate about the problems engineering allows you to solve. So for example, in electrical engineering, you could be super, super passionate about, say, power circuits. Then you would be super into electrical engineering because power engineering falls under that. So power electronics and so on and so forth, that all falls under electrical engineering. So you could also think about it that way. All right, let's move on to our next prompt. Okay, so this is actually the last prompt, and we are going to look at how engineering works. Whew, that's a big, vague question. Engineering works in many different ways, depending on the field that you're in. But the foundation of it is problem solving. So how it works is identifying a problem, identifying the scope of work, your limitations, your constraints for the problem that you're trying to solve, and then working within those constraints or actually pushing those constraints and molding them to allow you to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, to then design the solution, then actually implement the solution, and then also actually probably verify and validate the solution. So that's the general layout of how engineering processes usually work, how engineering has changed the world. Significantly. I don't even think I have to answer that for us all to know how it has, because it's everywhere around us. Especially if you're watching this video, you're probably watching it on some sort of device. That is a perfect example of how it has changed the world. So how engineering students study. There's many different ways that we study. I have a very particular way, which I'll probably share sometime near the academic year starting. But there's many different ways engineering students study. Some people cram at the last minute. Some people start an assignment as soon as it's out. And there's just so many different ways people study and get work done. And how engineering helps the world. Same way as how it's changed the world, moves it forward and propels it forward. So that's how I would answer that. All right, so we didn't have any spicy questions, but I think I did do a good job of answering commonly searched questions related to engineering. That was fun because now I know what people are searching up on Google. So that's interesting, and I hope you had some fun. So with that, I'm going to close off this video and I'm going to say until next time.